Hello everyone, this is Shams. Now I am going to explain three JavaScript interview questions. Number one, what is higher order function and the callback function? So a higher order function returns a function which is a callback function. As I say, a higher order function takes a function as an argument and or returns a function. On the other hand, a callback function is executing inside a higher order function. So if we takes a callback function returning in Alex name, and it is inside a higher order function in any other name, and outside that higher order function there is a variable defined. So in that variable it is saying hi and the name inside and the name. And now if we return that variable, console that variable, we will get hi Alex. Okay, let's move on to the next question. So my next question is, what is scope in JavaScript? So a scope defines the accessibility of a variable. So there are three scope specifically, which is global scope, which is accessible everywhere, a function scope, which is accessible only inside the function, and the last one is the if block scope, and this block scope is only defined inside that block. So that block. So if we take three variables, and one is outside any function and outside any block, it will be accessible everywhere. And if we take a variable inside a function, that will be accessible inside the function on code base. And on the other hand, if we take a variable inside a if block statement, that will only be accessible inside that if block. So my next question is that, let me see my next question. My next question is, what is defined, undefined, and null in JavaScript? So in JavaScript, a null is defined when a variable declared as empty square, empty quote mark, or simply declared as null. So then if we console log that variable, we will get the value null. On the other hand, if the value has not declared of any variable, then if we console log that variable, we will get undefined. So let's say let a semicolon, and we console log that a, we will get undefined, means the value has not defined yet. On the other hand, if we declare a variable a equal to null or empty quote mark, whichever we want, if we console log that variable a, we will get null. So that's my three questions of JavaScript. Now next we will move on to the TypeScript interview questions. Now we are going to explain some of the TypeScript questions. So my first question is, what are the three main primitive data types in TypeScript? So the main three primitive data types are string, define the text values, number, define the integers and decimals, and the last is boolean, which is defining a variable is either true or false. So my next TypeScript question is, what is type assertion in TypeScript? So a type assertion is like telling the TypeScript compiler strictly that I know the type of this variable better than you. Okay, so that is the main thing of using type assertion. So let's say I have two variables a and b. In one variable a, I am saying a string value. I am declaring a string value. Value is string, which is said hello world. And in the variable b, I call the variable a's length. So a.length. So if it will get error in TypeScript, we have to explicitly tell the TypeScript that a as string dot length. Now it will give the length of that string value. So I explicitly telling the TypeScript compiler that the value of the variable is string. And let's move to the last question of TypeScript, which is, let me check my last question. Yeah, how do you define a type alias and explain the purpose of it? Okay, let's say you use a type keyword. Okay, now the purpose of type keyword is to custom the name of it or the primitive data type of it, because it can have multiple data types. It could be either string, either number, or either boolean. So we get a custom type and we define with string and boolean, and we can use multiple data types using type. Okay. Now I'm going to explain some of nextjs questions. So my first question is, how does you differ nextjs than React, traditional React, right? So first of all, we need to know what is React and what is nextjs. So React is a library and the nextjs is a framework of that library, right? So React's work only inside browser and nextjs works everywhere, like server, like it handles the SS server-side rendering, it also static site generation, also pre-built HTML, etc. So if we, for example, if we say in React, if we send a empty div of HTML, then server loads and paints the UI of that div, of that HTML. But in Next.js, if we first server runs the JS and send HTML, then it paints the populated nice UIs inside it. So that's the main thing, and this is why Next.js is powerful right now, a powerful framework of React. So what if we say some advantages of Next.js, like it is SEO, means fully built HTML, and also the initial pages loads faster here than React. So if we view source of a React app, we will see empty HTML in that source page. But in a Next.js app, if we view that page in browser, we will see the pre-built HTML, which is the main feature and nice feature of Next.js. So now I will say the difference in Next.js 2 feature, which is server-side rendering and static-side generation. So first the main difference of server-side rendering and static-side generation is that a server-side renders happens when a user clicks the link, and every time the user clicks the link, it sends every time the HTML in the server. On the other hand, static site generation is like when it only execute once when the app has built, right? So that is the main difference between SSR and SSG. So there are two functions which is calling these two. Like first of all, that get I forgot the function name, get server side props function. So this function executes every time when a user clicks on a link, means on each request of a user. On the other hand, SSG, this function you export in a page router, execute only once and fetches the data only once when the app has built. So and instantly provides to every Next.js user. So that's all. Next we will discuss about some backend Node.js and Express.js. Now I will discuss some Node.js and Express.js for backend questions. So the first question is, what is blocking IO and non-blocking IO? So this is pretty sure that the blocking IO is blocking the code and the non-blocking IO never blocks the code. So that's the thing. So the blocking IO waits in code, running the code, next code, before it operates the execution of a file or database. Then it moves on to the next code. But the non-blocking IO, it simply executes the code, register a callback function, and then moves to the next code. So that's the main difference between blocking IO and non-blocking IO. So my next question is npm versus yarn. What are these two things? First, we have to know. I'm going to tell that the npm and yarn both are package managers. They both use package.json, and they use to install the necessary dependencies in my project. So yarn is historically the fastest, but right now npm is mostly equal to yarn right now. So these are two package managers. So that's the thing. So my next question is that course. Okay, so express.js course. So why I use course? Because it is a security feature in a Express. Like if we use course, we actually blocking the domains that are not safe or that are not set up in the course. So inside course, if we set up the domains that are safe, we are explicitly telling the Express that these are the domains which are safe. So my next question is global error handlers. So global error handlers in my Express app we use at the bottom, because after executes course, middlewares, everything, page routes, everything, we use the global error handler that fetches that shows all the errors it takes. Also in that global error handlers has 4 arguments like error, response, request, and the next function. So it is a kind of feature that it is handling the global error of my app, right? So my next question, what are the tasks? And this is my last question of Express backend and the Node.js, that what are the required to configure a project. First, to set up a project, I have to import the Express. Then I have to set the course, which are the safest domain to execute in my app. And then we will set the middleware. And then we will call all the page routes. Then we will handle the global error, and lastly we will listen to a port where going to the server, where the server is going to run. So that's all for my Node.js and Express.js question.